But believe it or not, Mr. Campbell, I was
sitting here at my perch near 18, getting ready for the show. The temptations were great, but I held firm and am here ready to do 3 hours of quality radio, or as close to proximity to quality radio as I can with you today. So there's that. But I did not try to play. I also did not try to run across the course, like just do my boxers or something like that to get on television like some people do. I was very nice. I was very polite. I was with my wife, who is down here working a little bit too. So, we both had things to do today, and I didn't want to embarrass her. So, I wanted to, but I didn't. But no, it's
would do that.
Yeah, I don't need that. She doesn't need that, and I don't want to make the news for any kind of bad reasons. But
did get to see a lot of good golfers today.
Did get to see a lot of good golfers today. Again, not a ton.
Tomorrow,
I will not be on the show tomorrow. I will be calling in to you
Terry and Tyler should they
wish. But I'll be watching more golf tomorrow. But I did get to see Justin Thomas, Kevin Kisner, Jason Day. Who else have I seen today? Lucas Glover, saw him play for a little bit. Siwoo Kim was with him. Saw Thomas Detry of Belgium, who's going to be a good young player soon. I did not ever get the chance to hook up with the Scheffler and Spieth group, which was, I guess, the featured group of the day. They did just finish right behind me, and lots of "way to go, Scotty" and things like that. So, he's obviously immensely popular these days. But a beautiful day out here right now. Let me get back to it if I can. JT Poston is your leader at 8 under par. Oh, I saw Austin Edbrook today. He's in second place. He's at 5 under along with Mackenzie Hughes and
Heath Thigala, who's becoming a very popular player. And Seamus Power of Ireland, not to be confused with Seamus, the WWE megastar. This is a different Seamus from Ireland, but he is also at 5 under par. Harris English is good. And again, I saw Jason Day for a bit. Really popular guy. I think a lot of people pulling for him just to come back around to what people expected of Jason Day. But did get to follow him for a couple of holes before I had to come in and do some work. We'll talk about it for you. I'm very excited too. And I want to thank Sarah Hazard at the South Carolina Manufacturers Alliance, who was on the board of the Heritage Foundation. I'm going to give her a big time shout out. She has secured for you and me later today an interview with the great Steve Wilmot, the longtime president of the Heritage Classic Foundation and the longtime tournament director here. And trust me, he's a rock star because Steve saved this tournament. His work with the locals, with the PGA, with Boeing, with RBC have not only saved this tournament, but have turned this tournament into one of the PGA Tour's signature events now. All these big names are here. The format is different because of how the signature events go. And it is a true testament to the incredible hard work that Steve Wilmot did. And he is going to be dropping by our location here off of the 18th hole a little bit later on to talk with us about the Heritage. And I'm really excited because I'm telling you, this guy, I can't really say it any other way, Elijah. I'm serious. He and his team saved this tournament, and it's such a big deal for the state of South Carolina. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with him.
Yeah, good get. Look at you pulling guests as well. This is you getting ready for SEC Media Days. I know it. This is good primer. This is you getting ahead of the game and locking down great guests while on location. Like everybody's got to catch up. That's a solid get. I think we're going to get a lot of good stuff there.
I'm excited. And speaking of good gets, we our good friend Bill McDonald, Coach Bill McDonald, who, by the way, we forgot to congratulate on Monday. They won the Wofford Invitational. Yeah, I know, right? So there was that. But Bill's good friend Trip Eisenhower of the Golf Channel joined us last Thursday to give us a Masters preview, and Trip is kind enough to be joining us again here just a little bit. So for the second time in a week, we will have Trip Eisenhower of the Golf Channel to discuss this tournament with us. Looking forward to doing that. Trip's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. And Elijah, I forgot to tell you this. I apologize. Do it when we were talking earlier before the show, which we do every day. But I was playing phone tag with our good friend Langston Moore and his former teammate Jonathan Alston, who was having a big golf tournament next week to fund a lot of good things for charity, is going to join us. I know Coach Beamer, I think, is going to be a part of that. But Jonathan is going to join us around 4:30 today to discuss that. So we got a lot of golf to discuss. And I love the fact that in the last couple of days, we've blended golf with football. I want to thank Shane again for his time yesterday after he and Lamont had played in the Pro-Am. Talked to a few people this morning who got to see some of their play yesterday and how thrilled they were that the Gamecock coaches were down here supporting the university. So it's been a lot of fun to blend what we do with this tournament. And I'm going to press upon management next year, Elijah, for more of us to be here. I think this has been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
The pictures that you've been sending me has made me a little jealous. So like the lighthouse pick last night, that was nice. That's good scenery. That's some screens. There's some screensaver like scenes over there right now.
I'll throw that one out on Twitter in a little bit. It was nice. We got back from dinner last night, my wife and I and a friend, and just we're walking around. We're not too far from there. We're very fortunate where we're staying this year. Not too far from there, and I just thought it looked great. And it was about 60-something degrees last night, and I was like, you know what? I just gonna take that picture. So there it was. But many of you that have been here, and some of you I'm sure are coming down later on the weekend to watch some of this. Many of you will be back home, obviously, watching the spring game on Saturday. But if you're around tomorrow, say hey. I'm looking forward to watching a little bit of golf. But it's been a nice time. And again, I'm really, really genuinely excited as a professional and as a resident of our state and as a big golf fan to have Steve Wilmot coming up for us in the 5 o'clock hour. We're not sure exactly when, 5:15, 5:30. He's got a couple of interviews that I know he's doing here right off of 18. So a little in the 5, but Steve is going to be stopping by. A lot of things to get to today. Mark Kingston was on Carolina Calls last night. I know Elijah and I will get into some of what Coach had to say ahead of a huge opportunity for South Carolina baseball. They're playing better of late. They've won, 5 of 6 now. So they are playing good baseball. You've got Will Tippett's bat going. That's good. You've got a lineup that you like in terms of right, left that we've talked a lot about with Mark and Stewart. So we'll touch on some of those things. I know there's a lot of Gamecock football notes to get to as well, and a couple of big college, the business of college sports news notes that we're going to discuss throughout the course of the afternoon. And I gotta say this too. I guess Kentucky fans feel a little better that the Bulls won last night and are alive for at least one more game. And now that maybe the Heat are in a little trouble, they could be alive into the playoffs. But Kobe White went nuts last night against the Hawks.
42.
I'm not dogging Kobe because that was nice. But the Hawks, but Billy Donovan is still coaching the Chicago Bulls. So there's that.
We do have a question on the stream here, real quick. A quick sidebar. Asking from our friend Steven Bessinger, asking or saying, "Hope you haven't run into any mating alligators. Have you avoided the alligators?"
I have avoided. I've not seen any alligators. There are several. Well, there's one sign that I think is great. It says, it says, "Please do not." What? Now I can't remember. It was like, "Please do not feed or not in cat." What was the word? Oh man, now I can't remember. I should have taken a picture. I was going to send it to you, and I forgot to take a picture of it. But it was like it's something like intimidate or interact. That's what it was. It was please do not feed or interact with the alligators. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. I will take that advice. Harbortown Golf Links and Sea Pines Resort, and not do that. But I've not yet seen any. I talked to somebody this morning who did see one a little earlier. They're around, man. Seriously, I've been here enough. I've seen them. They're here, and sometimes they'll walk up on a fairway somewhere. They don't have, some places where there's alligators will have some of that, like that metal, like small safety thing, and alligators don't really crawl up stuff, so,
right.
But they don't have any of that here. None. Like at Disney World, they've got that now, and a few places where there's a bunch of gators. But here, man, the gators are they're part of the environment down here, and so they've learned to live with them. But for those of us who as I like to say, ain't from around here. It's interesting, but I have not seen any yet. But Stephen, thank you. For chiming in. I will do my best to look for alligators tomorrow without provoking, interacting, feeding. Especially, I have a friend who lives here on Hilton Head who reminded me yesterday when I was on the way down. For those of you who missed it, that it's alligator mating season here in April on the island. I don't know aggressive. If that holds. And they get a little more aggressive.
Word on the street.
Yeah. So I just leave them alone, man. I remember one time when I was in college, we were playing golf down near Pawleys Island, and a couple of buddies of mine and I thought it'd be fun. We weren't trying to hurt an alligator. I promise. We were not trying to hurt an alligator, but we pulled a range ball out of our bag and we plopped one down that was swimming in a pond at a course down on near Pawleys. And we hit it like 10 yards away from the alligator. Again, I promise you, I would never hurt an animal intentionally. We just wanted to see what it would do. So it turned, right, thinking it was something like a fish jumping or something like that. And then it just kind of kept swimming towards us. And again, we're far enough away. And I was like, you know what, man? I don't think we should have done that.
In hindsight, that was not.
It wasn't.
Wise.
It wasn't going to bother us, I don't think. And it was far enough away that we could get on the golf cart and leave. But I was like, I don't think we should, because I just felt like it had spotted us. It probably didn't. But I was like, I think it was a bad idea. And my buddy was like, yeah, maybe it was. So we decided that was not a good idea. Somebody just made a nice putt on 18. I can't tell who, though.
It wasn't an alligator.
It was not. Anyway, having a good time down here. Again, JT Poston is the leader in the clubhouse at -8. Austin Eckroat, Mackenzie Hughes, Sahith Thagala, Seamus Power, all at 5 under, with Seamus Power still on the course. He is playing number 12. Before we get out of here for this break, not for the show, I'm smiling because of the joy that this man helped bring millions of people. But if you have not yet heard, the legend that is Dickie Betts passed away today at the age of 80. The amazing guitar player, singer, a songwriter for the Allman Brothers Band. Yeah, he hadn't been on tour with him in a while. His son's been playing a lot in some of the cover bands that do a lot of things with the Allmans. But I saw the Allman Brothers a lot in sort of their second iteration. And, Dickie, Dwayne, and Greg, and of course later Warren Haynes wrote so many amazing songs, either separately or together. I thought the combination of Dickie and Warren, again, in that second kind of coming of the Allman Brothers, was fantastic. How they played off of one another the way Dickie and Dwayne did before Dwayne passed away so many years ago. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Allmans throughout the day, but easily one of my favorite bands. I got to see him a lot, and again, Elijah, there will never be another. There never was and never will be another Dickie Betts. He was so unique in how he sounded, both in his voice, in his message through his songs, and how he played the guitar. He was truly one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, I will say one of my all-time favorite rock and roll songs, not even rock and roll songs, across all genres, is "Sail Away" by the Allman Brothers, and he did write that. That was one of his writing credits. One of the greatest songs ever made. One of the greatest guitar solos in terms of just like soothing music. And that was that's a tough one. That's a tough one because I really enjoy going back and listening to some 70s Allman Brothers.
Well, and nothing, as I say, nothing like a live recording of the Allman Brothers Band. Wherever you get one from whatever generation they were doing it, they were absolutely amazing. So rest in peace to the amazing Dickie Betts, and we'll talk more about him and the Allmans throughout the day as well. Come back on the other side. Want to get into a couple of things going on around the business of college athletics. 2 things that have happened today that should definitely factor into where college sports are headed. You are listening to the Postgame Show. 20 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the post-game show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. I'm broadcasting live from Harbortown Golf Links. Elijah back in the Herndon Chevy studios. We'll talk more about what's going on here at the Heritage with Trip Eisenhower of the Golf Channel. He's coming up in just over 10 minutes' time. Later on, Steve Wilmot, the fantastic president of the Heritage Classic Foundation and the tournament director, is going to join us here from our spot near 18. Looking forward to that. In between, former Gamecock Jonathan Alston is going to join us, talk a little football and golf, which we have done a lot of the last couple of days, and I am enjoying that. A couple of things to get to here. Let's start with a new transfer rule that is going to be passed by the NCAA. This one's interesting. They're going to attempt to try to put some limits on transfers, but it's not what you think. They want to tie. Attempt. Exactly. They want to tie academic progress to multiple transfers. They're not trying to stop multiple transfers, but there are concerns about graduation rates and whether or not certain. I mean, some schools obviously have different standards, and how does that work? Now, look, a school can certainly, Elijah, say, "No, listen, young man, young lady, your grades aren't good enough. We're not going to take you into our school," and that would be perfectly fine, and then that young person would know that. But they have approved this. Let me read you a little bit here from Heather Denich's piece. This will allow all undergraduate athletes to transfer and play immediately if they meet specific academic requirements. This is basically emergency legislation. The decision won't be final until the meetings end today, and then the rule would need to be approved on Monday by the NCAA's executive board. Heather says that's basically a rubber stamp. The rule will provide, let me read verbatim here, the rule will provide immediate eligibility to any athletes who have transferred during the 23-24 academic year, including the football players who entered the transfer portal Tuesday and during this window, as long as they are academically eligible and meeting progress towards degree requirements at their new school. Now, you would think that in some ways, Elijah, that's like, I'm just going to be blunt here, duh.
Self-explanatory. The whole point of playing college football or basketball, baseball, whatever, is that you're going to college,
right? Which
has requirements.
I don't know how different this really is, other than they're basically saying we're not fighting this anymore. So that's pretty much what it is. And then it's is it the honor system for a school? I suppose so. Heather writes, the legislation will not limit the number of times an athlete can transfer, and there are still 2 transfer windows, but they cannot transfer mid-year and play for a second school in the same season. Although the new rule is tied to academic progress, some in college athletics have expressed concern about the long-term implications for graduation rates. And I suppose now, Elijah, that's something that you're just going to have to look at and see. I did hear Terry and Tyler make mention of the SEC. Like, I think they had a text actually say the SEC doesn't allow a transfer this time of year. Again, only intra-conference. And I do not think I meant to tell. Well, I couldn't tell Terry this because I wasn't actually on the show. But I don't think this is something that anyone's going to challenge within the Southeastern Conference, because it was agreed upon within the Southeastern Conference. So, in other words, even if, and I don't know this for sure, Elijah, but even if, let's just say a kid at Carolina wanted to transfer to Auburn now, and then that kid was told, well, the SEC has a rule that you can't. Yeah, but I want to. Well, then I'm going to sue. Auburn's not going to help that kid, is what I'm saying. Or whatever school. I don't want to. Maybe I shouldn't say school names or anything like that, but I'm trying to be hypothetical here. I don't see the Southeastern Conference dropping that, and that's a football only rule for this spring football window. I don't think they'll, because I don't think anybody, again, even if a student athlete were to challenge it, I don't see a school standing up in a meeting within the Southeastern Conference and going, "Oh, but he really wants to." I don't think that's going to happen.
And try to stick up for that player. Yeah.
I don't think that's
think
going to. And I don't see a school wanting to fight that. If the schools get together and decide ultimately to drop that rule, then I think that would be perfectly acceptable. But until then, since they did all internally agree on it, I don't know why they would change it now.
The only way is if there's like a player that's good enough to really make one school completely ditch the idea that they had to begin with and backtrack. Which, of course, most of the kids that are transferring in the spring aren't that caliber. If you've just been looking at the players who are transferring in the spring, a lot of times it's because they know they're not going to get the spot they want on the roster. So if you're not good enough to get the spot on the roster, more than likely a school is not going to bend over backwards to try to break rules they created to bring you onto their roster. So it is a kind of a wild hypothetical, but I guess
certainly work to challenge that in court, right? That's what I'm saying too, because that's where these challenges have primarily come is that student athletes have been successful in court, and we understand that. I like I say, I think in terms of the SEC spring football transfer rule, which again says that you cannot leave an SEC school and transfer into another one during this 15-day window, you'd have to have somebody be complicit in as a school, and I don't think that's. In other words, if again, kid at SEC school A called school B is going to be like, hey son, can't take you.
Yeah,
like that's where it stops.
And that's the end. That's the end of it.
Yeah, that's it. So you just can't. And again, a kid would go, well, I'm going to sue. I don't think that's I don't think that would work. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But I would doubt they would do that because of how the rule is written within the conference. And kids know that going in. Hey, if you want to transfer, we got a rule in our conference that you can't go to another school this time of year. So we'll see. And like you said, maybe that kid is more likely than not to. The great kids are more likely to be transferring after the season in the winter window, not here in the spring. There's another one that we'll talk about a little bit later on. The state of Virginia has passed its own NIL law. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit, but it goes farther at this point than any other state law has. What does that mean for everybody else? The UVA AD had something interesting to say about that, and we'll share that with you in just a little bit. In the meantime, broadcasting live from the Heritage, quick break, come back, and Trip Eisenhower of the Golf Channel will talk with us about what's going on here. Day one of the Heritage on beautiful Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. This is the Postgame Show. Talking some PGA golf down here at Harbortown Golf Links. Welcome back into the post-game show along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you for being with us. Again, coming up a little bit later on, the executive director of the Heritage Classic Foundation, the great Steve Wilmot, is going to be with us in the 5 o'clock hour. Looking forward to talking with Steve here at our perch near 18 about everything that this tournament means to the state of South Carolina and to the game of golf. We'll do that for you. Jonathan Alston, the former Gamecock offensive lineman, is going to join us next hour. And right now, as promised, for the second time in a week, he'll get tired of us soon enough, is Trip Eisenhower, a great golf reporter for the Golf Channel and a guy who's now that Bill McDonald's not with us here, we'll be on better behavior. We try to cut it up a lot when Coach Billy Mack is with us. But Trip, good to have you with us again, man. Thank you so much for your time. How are you?
I'm good. I'm all good. I enjoy cutting it up too. You don't have to play straight and narrow with me.
No, don't worry. That's
good.
what we do. That's what we do around here. What does this tournament mean to guys like you that are that do this for a living? That the week after the Masters and all of that, and now this event has changed. But tell me, when you think of the Heritage, what comes to mind first?
Well, first is the golf course. People always ask me what were some of my favorite golf courses on tour that I played. In Harbortown, it would be in a majority of tour players' top five. Most everybody loves the golf course. Now, does that mean that some guys don't play it because they don't play it well? Yeah, it's a difficult golf course. It's a beautifully designed golf course by Pete Dye and Jack Nicklaus back in the late '60s, and it's not long, and it's still one of the lowest highest winning scores. I mean, typically, other than like Brian Gay, who won by 10 when he shot like 22 under or something like that. I mean, for the most part, the scores are around 10 to 12 under par on a golf course that's not one of the longest. So it really tests the best in the game, which shows you that it's not always about how long the golf courses are, but how strategic and how they make you think around there. And you had to think last week at Augusta, but you have to keep the thinking cap on when you make the little hop, skip, and jump over to Hilton Head.
Yeah, and that I think the term I hear a lot, and you can take us more through this to kind of expound on your last answer, is that this is a shot maker's course, and that may seem like just sort of obvious that yes, you have to hit your shot, but there are places, as you mentioned, when it's not long and it's tight, you screw up, you're in the water, or again, we've been talking a lot about alligators. You don't need that in your life, right?
Oh, no. And look, it's got I think the best set of par threes on the PGA Tour. And none of them are 280 yards. Like you can get. They're 17's beautiful. It's a 9-iron for most players, and it challenges them. And with the wind swirling there at Calabogie Sound and all the different, problems that you have on that hole, it's a wonderfully designed hole. 14 is just absolutely one of the most daunting par threes. It might be 190 yards now. I don't think it tips out at longer than 200. And then, of course, you've got the two par threes on the front that are equally as challenging. So the other thing that I love about it is the greens are some of the smallest on tour. I mean, they average about 3,500 square feet, and if you're in the wrong side of the fairway, you cannot attack these small these small greens, and you have to create a shot to get it into the area of the green that or an area where you can get it up and down, even if you can't get it on the green. So it's you look at the guys that win this golf tournament, and they're typically guys that are very, very precise with not only their iron play but also their tee games.
Sure, we'll go from talk about the course to one of the golfers on the course, and one who did spectacular in this past week in terms of running away with the Masters is obviously Scottie Scheffler. I saw one of your tweets from the other day where you talked about, Scheffler's physical skills, which are the obvious, aspect of his game, right? The obvious thing that you can take away. But you noted, that his mental game and quieting his mind under pressure kind of enhances that. What does Scottie Scheffler, do you think, have mentally that separates him from a lot of other really, really talented golfers in this field?
Well, it's what separates all great champions, and it's really the ability to stay quiet in the storm. And the best love the challenge, and what they are able to do I did a lot of work with Dr. Bob Rotella and have a lot of his, insights into when I played, but also into, people that I help with the game. And it's what we call a process. Scotty has the ability that when he gets to the golf course and each and every shot, he envelops himself in a process that keeps his mind occupied on that process so that he can let his swing do what he already knows how to do. And it's called process thinking versus result thinking. If you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I don't want the ball to go there, or I don't want this, then the subconscious goes all over the place and you're not able to perform, even if you are highly skilled like everybody there in the field at Hilton Head. So it's what you have, the great football players, Peyton Manning, in his day, he had a wonderful process for everything he did that let him just, do incredible things under pressure. And it's not just golf, but Scotty Scheffler right now is displaying the best process and having a quiet mind so his physical skills can shine the best since Tiger on a consistent basis right now. And, it's fun to watch because he really does have a quiet mind when it matters most. And that is nirvana for a golfer. If you can get there, it's not easy to get there, but man, oh man, he seems to get there on each and every day he gets to the golf course.
Talking to Tripp Eisenhower of the Golf Channel, day one of the Heritage here at beautiful Harbor Town Golf Links. It kind of staying with that theme, but expanding it, Tripp, to all these golfers here. This has now become a signature event on the PGA Tour, which I think is tremendous for this golf course, for this tournament, for the state of South Carolina. But you mentioned the mental part of it, and so many big names used to skip this one, not because, as you mentioned, that they didn't like the course or didn't think they could play well here, but they had worked so hard mentally to prepare for Augusta that they needed a week to decompress. Now every big name is here. So take us kind of through that as you've seen this particular tournament change and what that does in terms of how these guys are playing in the spring.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the signature events have definitely changed the landscape of the PGA Tour, and this is the first year of them. There is some learning curve that the PGA Tour is going to have to get, but certainly the signature events are the biggest beneficiary of these tournaments or the benefits of these tournaments is you get the best players, on the PGA Tour right now, and you get them all in one place playing, and they pretty much have to play because with all the points on the line, they fall behind if they don't. And let's not forget, even though I'm not a fan of them, is the no-cut events. I mean, I wish we had cuts. I think that's part of the spirit of the game that I don't like about the signature events. But as far as the beneficiaries being a wonderful tournament, and you said y'all are talking to Steve Wilmot, what a great guy and what a wonderful job he's done with his tournament. And it's nice to see him getting rewarded for all the years of effort that this great community has put into this event.
Yeah, and the fans love it. I tell you, a guy that a lot of people were pulling for today, I didn't get to see a ton of action, believe it or not, because I was prepping for the show, Tripp, but I did get to follow Jason Day for a little bit, and he's got a real I think the gallery really is pulling. These golf fans really want to see Jason come back around. How close do you believe he might be to recapturing what we all thought he was going to be a few years back?
Well, right now, I don't know if he can get back to number one, but because he's got a lot of roadblocks, mainly, some guys playing some really good golf ahead of him that are going to be tough to take out. But he is close. Look, he did something that a lot of people, as a player, we really understand the difficulty of this, and a lot of fans don't understand. He changed his technique to alleviate all the problems he was having with his back. That is a very, very difficult undertaking, and it's risky because there are a lot of players. You grow up swinging one way, and you have to change it, and you may not get the results if you get to the other side. So it was a gamble. He's taken it. His swing looks better. He moves more, and therefore he's not putting as much stress on his back. He's always had one of the best short games, and you're going to need it this week at Hilton Head. And I tell you what, he's one of those guys that can easily get the ball up and down on some of these really challenging up and downs that you're going to have throughout that 72-hole test. So And he's a super guy. You know, he's a great family guy. He's a really genuine, nice person. So when you see a guy like that getting back into some form, I don't think he's far away from having, you know, to contend in majors again. I absolutely see that. I mean, he already won last year at Byron Nelson. So, you know, he has had success with this new technique, you know, helping him stay injury free, because that would be the key for him.
Yeah. Tripp, such a pleasure to have you a second time in a week, man. We will do it again with you real soon as we get closer to some of these majors. It's great to have you part of what we're doing. Thanks, man. Enjoy the golf all weekend. We'll talk soon.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
That's Tripp Eisenhower of the Golf Channel. We are live at Harbor Town. Right back. Welcome back into the postgame show on this Thursday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. I'm broadcasting from Harbortown, and Elijah back in the master control suite of the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Thanks again to Tripp Eisenhower for joining us again for the second time in a week. Really appreciate it. Had fun talking Masters with him last week. The Heritage today. JT Poston is still your leader in the clubhouse at 8 under par. Seamus Power of Ireland has now moved into second place at 6 under. I did see Austin Eckroat playing a little bit earlier today. He's at 5 under. So is Mackenzie Hughes, Sahith Theegala, Cameron Young, and Russell Henley amongst a big group at 4 that also includes Ludwig Oberg, who made a name for himself last week.
That's your boy.
He's coming up again. Didn't know of him really. I think I had heard, maybe heard the name in passing, but didn't know much about him. And last week made a name for himself, and he is at 4. He's at 4, just made the turn. So has the back 9 to really pad his score. We mentioned Jason Day, who finished at -3. It is nice to see. Look, he's a big name still, and he's a big star on this tour still. It was fun to follow him around a little bit this morning. Seems nice and loose. Again, had a nice score today. Saw Aiken's own Kevin Kisner. Saw Lucas Glover, who, of course, was a star at Clemson and won the U.S. Open. By the way, I found this out today. I saw a good friend who works in the governor's office, and I was told that this is not a secret, so that I could say it if I wanted to.
Spill the beans.
But Lucas Glover tomorrow here after his round, or at some point tomorrow, I'm not sure exactly what time, but he will be receiving the highest honor that a civilian can receive in South Carolina, the Order of the Palmetto. So congratulations to Lucas Glover, one of 2 South Carolinians to win the United States Open Championship, with, of course, Dustin Johnson being the other. But he's not here this year, as you know, Elijah, because he's on that other tour.
Oh, there's another tour?
Yeah, well, that's what they say. Not the Corn Ferry, not the Corn Ferry tour. I
thought that was the other tour.
No, there's another one.
Surely they don't play on like the CW or anything like that. Probably has a really nice TV contract. If this it's got so many stars. I mean,
I'm gonna because I am here having a wonderful time at a PGA Tour event. I'm just gonna leave that one alone. I would like to say more, and perhaps someday soon I will, sir. But today I'll.
That's why you leave that to me. You leave that to me to say it from the comfort of this studio to talk about. You know what? Because it is such a nice, sophisticated other tour that they totally don't golf on the same channel that the ACC plays Wake Forest and NC State football. None at all. Absolutely not. Nope. They definitely do not do that.
There you go. There it is. A couple other big names for you. Let's see. Will Zalatoris is done at 3 under par. Rory McIlroy is currently at 3. He just made the turn.
Sounds like somebody just sunk one.
Yeah, somebody just did something. I can't. I'll find out who in just a second. But somebody just did something right behind me. Again, I can't. I have an obstructed view because they have those big grandstands. I took a shot a little while ago of my view down 18. And the big grandstand there, but that's actually behind me, so I can see all the people that are cheering, and I can hear them, but I cannot see 18 from where I am. Brian Harmon is at 3. Colin Morikawa is at 3. Lucas Glover into the clubhouse at 2 under, as is Masters champion Scotty Scheffler and the great Justin Thomas, who I also saw followed around for a while. He was playing with Kevin Kisner, was JT. So got to see him a little bit this morning too. So good time. And again, later on, I hope you'll stay tuned in the 5 o'clock hour to hear Steve Wilmot, the president of the Heritage Classic Foundation, the tournament director here. And it was neat to hear Tripp Eisenhower unprompted, say these things about Steve Wilmot, and anything that you might read about Steve echoes that, in the last few years as this tournament has grown in stature, despite it being now 50. This is the 50, I forget how 50 something. I forget. Honestly, I forget.
There's been so many that you've forgotten.
That's right. But Steve has such a wonderful reputation, and I'm looking forward to talking with him about how this tournament has evolved into one of the signature events on the PGA Tour. So we'll have that for you. Jonathan Alston, the former Gamecock offensive lineman, teammate of Preston and Langston's, is going to join us next hour. He's got a golf event coming up next week We'll touch on that with him and a little bit about his playing days at Carolina and in the NFL. Got sound from Mark Kingston coming up. And again, more on the business of college athletics. You are listening to the Thursday Postgame Show live from Harvard Town. Coming back at you right after this. 4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the post-game show coming at you from dual locations. Jay Phillips, I am broadcasting live from Harbortown Golf Links on beautiful Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Elijah's back in the Herndon Chevy Studios Master Control Suite, having a lot of fun down here. Beautiful day. I've got 79 degrees under, I'm going to call it mostly sunny skies. That's my meteorology for the afternoon, but it's perfect golf weather. Nice little breeze coming off the Sound, and all of you've seen, whether you've ever been here at this tournament or not, you've seen the shots of 18 across the Sound. And while I'm sure Saturday and Sunday will have a lot more boaters, trust me, there's a whole mess of boats out there. And I mean, listen, man, I'm serious, Elijah. You've got some boats that are not very expensive. And by that, I mean, there's a couple of guys that are basically in like, I don't know, maybe a 15 or 16 foot Duracraft,
Which, comparatively speaking,
I'm just waiting for them to get like I used to do when I was a kid. I had one of those up on Lake Murray, get the little trolling motor going and just sit back and do nothing for a while.
So you're telling me that place it's no place for pontoons.
Yeah, there's a couple of pontoons out there, but there are also a couple of boats that are not 14 foot, 15 foot Duracrafts, and they may be slightly more expensive than that. But you got everything. That's the beauty of it, because that's a public waterway out there. I'd like to see the guys in the Duracraft, by the way, pull over here to the Harbortown docks. Like, yeah, I just want to dock up for the night, please. Just see, what happens.
Just see the look that they get. From that.
Right, like you serious, Clark?
Like, you got identification, Clark?
But no, there's some nice ones. There's and if that's your thing, that's cool. I like boating, and again, I had a little fishing boat when I was younger.
You like big boats?
I really. It's not that I don't like them, but I don't know that I would if I had. I mean, and look, I don't have that kind of money, and I applaud those that do. Good for them. They've made it in life and they can afford these things. I just feel like I'd rather have something else than a big ass boat. I don't know,
See, same way. It depends.
Like maybe a house in the south of France or something, or like a timeshare in the south of France. I don't know.
The south of France would be pretty sweet.
I've been there once, and it is, man. And then there's the people that have a boat like that in the south of France. And I'm like, man, what country do you own? No, it's really cool out here. In all seriousness, it's a lot of fun, and glad to be out here. And I will not be fully on board the show tomorrow. I will be down here, and I will definitely call in to Elijah, and I'll do my best to pretend like I've had a good day, if you know what I mean. So
that's right.
There's that. No,
boots on the ground. That's journalism work. That's big kid
because I care, as I like to say. One other big story going on in sports. I mentioned this last hour, and I didn't have time to get to it, but the state of Virginia today has passed a new law that is about as the term I'll use, forward thinking as there is when it comes to NIL. It takes effect July the 1st. It is the first in any state in the union to make it illegal for the NCAA to punish a school for compensating athletes for their NIL rights. Current rules prohibit schools from signing NIL deals with their own players. This will either, according to this report from Dan Murphy of ESPN, he says this law could either give Virginia schools a significant recruiting advantage or provide a catalyst for similar changes elsewhere. UVA Athletics Director Carla Williams released a statement today that said, if this law gets us closer to a federal or national solution for college athletics, then it will be more than worthwhile. Until then, we have an obligation to ensure that we maintain an elite athletics program at UVA. Virginia Tech, James Madison, and others were involved in this up in the Commonwealth. Whit Babcock is the longtime AD at Virginia Tech, and he says that there's a number of ways for how his school wants to look at putting this into place. Quote, there's a better model and a better compromise. This is absolutely a step in the right direction for the Commonwealth of Virginia and the country. in my opinion. So, Elijah, I say all those things, as you know, and I know you agree, at least on the portion of schools being directly involved here. You know, we've seen a law in South Carolina getting passed. It'll go into effect later that gives schools direct control over NIL. That needs to happen everywhere. You know, look, if it makes it, quote, illegal for the NCAA to punish a school, I don't know what that looks like. You know, should the NCAA try it again? You know, is the state of Virginia going to, you know, what are you going to do? Do you arrest some type of NCAA investigator if they come onto a campus in your state?
Just Charlie.
And I don't mean that to, right. And I don't mean that to sound flippant, you know, but what do you do? So I've asked that before, somewhat rhetorically. How do you break these laws? Who's the one that would be breaking it? You know, is a school breaking the law if they aren't taking NIL under their wing? You know, or again, how do you arrest someone and prosecute them from the NCAA if they try to punish a school? So again, a lot of this is really more just jockeying for position, I think. But I would agree with UVA's AD in that, you know, Carla Williams, if they can show a blueprint for others around the country, then there's where the biggest benefit is. But I'll say it one more time, Elijah. Schools have to take this over as quickly as possible, regardless of what state we're talking about.
Absolutely. You know what? I would not have pegged Virginia to be the first one to implement something that kind of ties the NCAA's hands together and say, no, you can't keep us from doing this. And look, this is for the betterment of the sport, right? Like We've used the Jaden Rashada incident ad nauseum as an example as to why schools need to take this over, and all like the potential violations. Quote, I'm going to use heavy air quotes if you're not watching on the stream, heavy air quotes on violations. You saw what happened in Tennessee with the recruitment of Nico Nasty there at quarterback. And look, here's the thing. For schools, it's not fair to punish them for things they have no control over, right? If they have no control over these third-party entities that are running the NIL, and those third-party entities are the ones that are, you know, committing infractions, getting in trouble, their mouths writing, you know, checks that their rears can't cash, that's going to put them in a tough spot. It puts coaches in a tough spot. It puts a lot of people in tough spots, and it allows mishaps to happen. When schools are able to do it and able to control it, it might not even ensure that things go smoothly, but at least gives you, you know, a reasonable person to blame if something does go wrong. And for coaches, it's easier to be able to just do this through the school, and you can be compliant with whatever actual real law or rule there is. I think that's kind of the biggest. The compliance element of this is going to be the biggest thing, and I think it's literally going to be a matter of time before a lot of other states. I mean, I'm 5, 6, 7, 8. It's going to be a chain reaction to it in the next few months, because this really is just the only practical way to run NIL collectives.
Absolutely. And, you know, look, we talked earlier, if y'all missed it, there's a law, or excuse me, a rule that was passed today by the NCAA that's going to allow transfers every year. They're doing their best to tie it to some form of academic progress, which I think is noble. And I do wonder how challengeable that might be, if that's the right legal term to use. Like I say, I'm no lawyer, but I do think it's fair to try and put something in place as an organization to it's not that it's going to prevent it. Might it slow it a little bit, or at least legitimize it to some degree? You know, again, if member institutions aren't at least doing something to look out for the cause of academics, however naive that might sound, and however, you know, many fans around the country kind of eye roll, like, come on, none of them are there for school anyway. You know, plenty of them actually are, believe it or not. That they're doing that, Elijah. Why isn't the NCAA, why aren't its member institutions having meetings to just go ahead and say, okay, let's do this? Or again, I come back around to a question that I've asked somewhat open-endedly when you and I discussed this, when Terry and I discussed this before you and I started working together. Why isn't the so-called Power Five, the Autonomy Five, soon to be Autonomy 4, just doing this? Because they've been given license to do this. And by this, I mean to put NIL under their umbrella. I don't quit fighting something that you're going to lose. You know, this is like the Black Knight in Holy Grail, you know, and the NCAA keeps looking up going, it's just a flesh wound. No, it's not. Yeah, you've got no arms and no legs. What are you going to do? Bleed on me? That's where we are with this. Quit fighting losing battles. I want the integrity of college athletics to matter the way a lot of fans do. I get it. I truly get it. And I don't care what generation you're in. I get it. But we keep coming back around to the fact that they've been breaking laws. They're restricting the rights of free adult Americans illegally, and you can't do that. And you've got to find a way to make it right. But I don't understand why they keep, we can do this, but we can't do that. No, you need to do all of it. You need to do all of it and let it sort itself out in a market-based environment. Eventually, those things do happen. I agree with Andy Staples when he says this about markets do correct themselves because there are ebbs and flows, supply and demand, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to have a macroeconomics class here right now, but markets correct themselves when they're free. And ultimately, believe it or not, yes, and transparent. Thank you. We need to know what these deals look like.
Yes.
And then let's allow those market forces to work. But the schools need to be in charge. And you hit on one of the great points, Elijah. If a school is going to get in trouble for something a school had no control over, that's wrong too. And at that point, if I'm the school and you try to get me in trouble for that, then I'm going to sue you too. Forget about the athletes doing it. If I'm going to do it as a school, like, hey man, this isn't me driving the getaway car where I'm helping, aiding and abetting somebody in a crime. Like, I didn't know they were doing that.
Like somebody committing a crime in an Elijah Campbell shirt and saying that it was me, and I'm the one getting in trouble because you're wearing the shirt with my face on it. Like, that's essentially the exact same thing. Yeah, I would sue as well. And now we have a whole circle of lawsuits that ultimately you're just going to get a big old mess in court. And that's where we're at right now with a lot of these.
On the Virginia law, by the way, the NCAA has not said this week whether they will allow all schools to sign NIL deals because of what Virginia has done. Again, I'll read here from this piece at ESPN.com. If the NCAA does not change its rules before July and a school decides to sign NIL deals with its athletes, the state could then sue the NCAA if the association attempts to penalize the school. The NCAA has previously told ESPN that in cases where a law that contradicts NCAA rules is permissive, allowing a school to do something rather than mandating a school do something, the association expects schools, to follow NCAA rules. So that's where they stand right now, and I'm not sure that's going to work.
Yeah.
All right, time out here. Come back on the other side. Mark Kingston spoken ahead of the Arkansas series. The Hogs come into town tomorrow night. I'm going to drink some water and clear my throat. You're listening to Live Radio as I broadcast from Harbortown on the Postgame Show. Welcome back into the postgame show on this Thursday afternoon. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you. Yours truly in Hilton Head for the Heritage. Elijah back in Columbia. Apologies going into that last break. I'm sitting underneath a huge, beautiful, I would say very old magnolia tree, but a lot of pollen. And it is, I just, listen, full disclosure, I just popped a Zyrtec. So hopefully that's going to help a little bit, but it was starting to get to me because I am outdoors here today, which is what I wanted to do. So, I got to take the good with the bad.
I'm a Zyrtec believer. That's a good call.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, it's not one of those, like antihistamines that makes you feel like you're walking like a step behind yourself, which I don't like.
Start talking slow.
Yeah, I just don't like those things, man. I mean, I know sometimes you got to take one, but they just make you, I don't know. I don't like them. I don't like them. But anyway, Zyrtec's not that. So I just stepped inside to pop a Zyrtec. So I did what I can to try to be a better radio host. I also try to be a better radio host by inviting really good guests on our show. Even people like Ryan Brewer. And a minute ago, you heard Preston Thor doing a commercial for John Alston's Beyond Now Foundation golf event, which is going to be next week. And John's going to join us in about 15 minutes. But I had mentioned in a previous segment that John Alston was teammates with Langston and Preston. And I got a text from Ryan Brewer that said he was my teammate too, which is, I'm sure, technically true. But here's the thing that Ryan doesn't know. I'm kind of mad at him because the last two times I've invited him on the show to talk about some of the stuff going on with special teams, he stiffed us. And one of the times, Elijah, it's because he said he was wink, wink, traveling to Florida with his family.
Oh, whatever that means.
I was like, dude, what? Like, I don't need to know that. Don't just lie because you don't want to come on the show.
Right. That hurts our feelings. We gave you a nickname for your Tuesday weekly during football season and everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, sorry, Ryan. Yeah, but that's why I did. I knew he was Ryan's teammate. He was Eric Kimry's teammate. A lot of people's teammates.
Yeah, a lot of teammates. That's big rosters.
Big team. But no, the real reason that I didn't mention Ryan Brewer's because, again, stiffed us. Florida with the family. Oh, yeah. Don't hand me that. Don't tell me that. Anyway, we do need to get Brew back on soon.
I want to ask about the kickoff thing. I want to ask. I'm
me
dying
too.
to hear his thoughts about how will special teams players react to a kickoff where you're basically almost like lining up at a line of scrimmage and waiting to cover a kickoff with the kicker being like 35 yards behind you.
Yeah,
I'm curious about that. I'd like to know what he thinks.
Ryan's going to want to go sign up for a day just to see what it feels like, which I'd be all for.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he should. I think former players should. Former players actually should be the ones to be the guinea pigs. And then they do it. And then that's the video that they show all the teams. Like, all right, here's some former players doing it.
Well, and I will say this in great credit to our friend Ryan Brewer. Well, I say friend loosely.
After the Florida thing.
After the stiffness. Unlike some, they get older in any walk of life, not just athletes. Ryan has not gone soft. Those of you who know Ryan know that he remains in tremendous physical shape, so he can handle it.
I think so. I think he make a tackle. How about that?
Yeah,
I think he'd make a tackle in the new kickoff format.
So there, Ryan, I just gave you a compliment. You're welcome. It was not easy. Let's get to a little Carolina baseball for you. Again, number 2 Arkansas coming to town this weekend. Elijah's got some deep dives into what the Hogs look like. We'll have that for you coming up in about an hour's time during our 5:15 Gamecock segment. But right now, I want you to hear a little bit from Coach Kingston from last night's Carolina calls. We'll start with something that we were talking about last week when it felt like it needed to happen, and this week now that it is happening, and that is Will Tippett's improvement at the plate.
Feels like it's night and day. I think for the coaches, for the players, for the fans, I'm sure watching, it feels like when he walks to the plate now, something good has a chance to happen. And it has. Ever since he went to just right-handed and stopped the switch hitting, he's been able to focus on one side instead of splitting his time and his work and his prep. And he's been a much better player. Right-handed is his natural side. And he's just been much better at the 2 homers, the 2 doubles, a lot of walks. He's been a weapon now all of a sudden, and when he gets on base, he can steal bases as well. So him being willing to go ahead and you got to swallow your pride a little bit, because when you try to be a switch hitter and it's not going the way you want, you've got to swallow your pride and just say, okay, I'm going to take a step back, get to my natural side, and do what's best for the team. He's done that, and it's been great for him and for us.
It has. We talked a lot about it, and that's going to continue. Mark told us for the foreseeable future. I don't think they've given up on Will Tippett's switch hitting entirely, and a lot of it may just be how things are going. But it's just been, I think, night and day, like Mark said, Elijah. I don't know that any of us would have expected it to be that quick. Now, again, you'll be taking a look a little bit later on at some of the Arkansas pitching numbers, and opposing pitching has a lot to do with how a guy is going too. But this is, it's certainly been a much needed improvement for the ball club. No doubt about that.
Yeah. First off, spoiler alert, the Arkansas pitching staff is nasty. Second of all, Will, like the thing with Will too, you mentioned, the home runs he's hit this year from the right-hand side of the plate. Look, I understand wanting to incorporate switch hitting into your game because it makes you valuable. It makes you a lineup versatility piece that coaches love, right? I mean, there's nothing coaches love than looking up and down a lineup and trying to either, do what Mark did in the Florida series by staggering the lineup with left-hand hitter, right-hand hitter, left-hand hitter, right-hand hitter. And if you're a switch hitter, you're going to give your coach a little more versatility to put you in the lineup wherever, if that's something he's wanting to do. So I understand that from, a versatility standpoint. But at the same time, when you're 1 for 31 in conference play, and you've essentially for the first bit of conference play, you're an automatic out at times, and you got to be able to fix something to get that first one back, right? And I think that home run against Florida was the first one back, where he hit it right-handed, hit good pitching out of the park, and eventually it's gotten him to now he's carried it over to the Citadel game, right? They don't win without a Will Tippett homer. Didn't think we'd be saying that a couple of weeks ago for any game, regardless of who they're playing. So I think it's a big credit to Will too, to be able to take something that you wanted to use as something that you wanted to use as a versatility piece to your game to make you more dangerous and more of a chess piece, and settling in, taking coaching, accepting it, taking it, and being able to adjust to just being a right-handed hitter, doing what you do best, getting comfortable. Now he's not like I said, he's still below 200. I haven't seen his batting average. Yeah, still below 200. But at the same time, it's going up, and there's improvement, and that's what you want to see, because if he starts to improve even just a little bit, he builds on that even a little bit, he's going to be able to help you. Because look, he's so good in the field, and he saves you so many runs, and he saved you so many runs this year. There's a lot of wins you have been because of Will Tippett's glove at short. If he's able to just get you something at the bottom of the order, the way the top of your order can hit, then that puts you in a position to where you're going to be able to beat a lot of these really good teams in the SEC and be able to make a good run.
Well, and again, as we talked about, when you're the 9-hole hitter after the first time through the order, depending on how things go, you can at times become almost a de facto leadoff hitter again because of how the lineup goes. And I think that's a big improvement. Speaking of improvement, the very next cut on the list, please, Elijah. This is Mark Kingston. Again, South Carolina has won 5 of 6 now after a few tweaks to what's going on. Here's what he says about where his team is after that.
Well, I'll even take it further back than that. I thought last week was about as good a week as you can have in college baseball, and it started last Sunday. We beat the now number 1 team in the country, Texas A&M, beat them on Sunday. Then we traveled to Charlotte to play North Carolina in the AAA ballpark. North Carolina is now a top 10 team and one of the better teams we've seen this year. We beat them on Tuesday night. And then we traveled to Gainesville, and we won on Friday. We won on Saturday, let the one slip away on Sunday. But in terms of the overall week, to beat Texas A&M, North Carolina, Florida twice in the same week was about as good a week as we've had in a while, but I think it's about as good a week as anybody in the country can have. So I was really proud of the guys. They're playing hard. They're playing well. There's still some areas that we want to continue to improve, that if we do, then we're going to be an even better ball club. But I think overall, that was a great week. And it, as you mentioned, it ended in Gainesville, where I thought we played really well, especially offensively. It was one of our better weeks in a while.
28 runs scored against the Florida Gators, which was interesting considering the 2-1 game. And you and I talked about this last week, with the North Carolina game, Elijah. If you had said South Carolina is going to beat North Carolina by a run in Charlotte, I'd have said sure. But on a Tuesday night, I'd have said, like what I think it says, 7-6, 8-7, something like that. Something like that. Not 2-1, because North Carolina can score runs and South Carolina can score runs. So that one was sort of an anomaly. But other than that, I think Mark's right. And again, a little bit later on, we'll talk more about what this Arkansas pitching staff is going to attempt to do to South Carolina. And Coach Van Horn certainly knows how to get his arms together. And that's what Arkansas is looking like. But it's a big opportunity. That's what coaches love, big opportunities for their ball clubs. Come back on the other side of the break. You have an opportunity to help a great cause, play some golf in the capital city next week. Former Gamecock offensive lineman John Alston going to join us talking about that and reminisce about Langston and Coach P and maybe even Ryan Brewer. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Since 1936, Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union has been part of the Midlands. They go the extra mile for members and have all the way back since the 1930s, no matter how many commas you might have in your bank account. And right now, Palmetto Citizens is working to put in place brand new systems and improvements to provide you and all current and future members with a better overall experience, to offer the convenience you need to manage your money in so many ways: checking account, savings account, car loans, home loans, student loans, credit cards, whatever it is that you need to manage your money and to do it in ways that fit your budget. Not a lot of big banks are able to do that, to customize those payment plans the way they can at Palmetto Citizens. Apply for anything they do online at palmettocitizens.org. Join my wife and me as customers. We use the Millwood branch. They've got 14 all across the Midlands area here in Columbia. Great people to work with. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start in Richland County, where we have a few accidents. We'll start with one on Dutch Square Boulevard at Bakersfield. That's causing some mild traffic backup, as well as one on Farrow Road at Highway 555 and I-77. Another one on Farrow Road at Highway 555, this time at Killian Road. Those two accidents are causing some delay over near Farrow Road. We also have another one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road at I-77, one on Lee Road near Trowbridge Road, one on Summit Parkway at Summit Center Drive, one at US 176 Broad River Road near I-20, and in Lexington County, we do have one at Hope Ferry Road near Reedy Parkway.
Talking a lot of things this afternoon as we are broadcasting live from two spots. Jay Phillips live at Harbortown Golf Links on Hilton Head Island. Elijah back in Columbia talking some Gamecock baseball. We talked with Trip Eisenhower of the Golf Channel about this tournament going on today. I'll update you on it in a little bit. Yesterday, we talked to Coach Shane Beamer, blended a little football and golf, and we're going to do that right now with former Gamecock offensive lineman and NFLer John Alston. He and his wife have started the Beyond Now Foundation, and next week they're going to give you an opportunity to play a little golf and help a good cause. John, good to have you on the show, buddy. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. We'll talk about this event in just a little bit, but you are, as I mentioned earlier, teammates, former teammates of our good friend Langston Moore, and of course our colleague here on the station, Coach P. Preston Thorne. And then Ryan Brewer decided to chime in, sent me a text and said he was my teammate too. So let's start with Brew. You got to block for him a little bit. Take us through that.
Well, I tell you, got the block for him and block for many guys that are still here in the Columbia area. Many great teammates, But just like I had the opportunity to block for Ryan a little bit. I was when he was a superstar, I was a little scrub guy, so I didn't block him as much. But we're trying to do the same thing for the kids, man. I mean, that's the goal, to remove the barriers that they have with education, and then allow them to score a touchdown. And for us, what that means is for our kids that we're working with, just to have that hope through education, right? And to have the opportunity, to have a lifelong love of learning, but also too, just to have that confidence. We recently had one of our kids that had a double-digit increase on their I-ready testing, 36%. Wow. And for me to hear that news, that's no different than a Ryan Brewer scoring a touchdown. I'm excited, high-fiving my wife, high-fiving the instructors, and especially celebrating that with our kids. So, we're excited about what we're doing, and we just want people to be a part of it. This is something that not only affects, the children in the communities that we serve, but we want to affect communities as a whole.
Jonathan, when you look at this, I'm so impressed. In all seriousness, I'm so impressed with what Langston and Preston have done the last few years. With the Just a Chicken series and getting out into the schools, and they're not alone in this. But tell us from your own vantage point, you and your wife, what was that moment where you said it's one thing to recognize it, and then there's another when it is time to do something about it. What was that moment like for you when you said we're going to do something?
To be quite honest, we've done for a long time, but it wasn't organized. So what we decided to do was take all the little things, all the volunteer work we've done, we took all the different things that we've done over the years, and we wanted to be intentional, to help uplift the state of South Carolina, period. And that starts with our next generation. And that's what it's all about. I feel like for us, it was just a matter, it was a build-up point, in 2020 to where we were like, hey, we want to make an impact and we want to be very intentional about it. Let's put this thing together. And to be quite honest, we prepared for this time for years. I remember talking to my wife when I was in college, just in the dorm room, about wanting to have a nonprofit, and now we're walking into it. So, for me, it's no different than walking into that NFL locker room, walking into a dream. And here we are, so now it's time to execute and help as many kids as we can.
And what conjures up the idea of the golf event?
Sorry, Elijah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, what conjures up the idea of the golf event? Like, obviously, it's an awesome cause. I'm really curious how the idea of the golf event specifically kind of came together.
No, absolutely, man. So with that piece, I told my wife I wanted to have a golf tournament for a while. And my wife is one that she makes things happen. If I tell my wife that I like a shirt, it'll show up, through Amazon the next day, right? So the same thing with the golf tournament. We talked about it, and once we formed the nonprofit, we started talking about when are we going to do it, and we sat down on December 20th, on this past December, and said, you know what? Let's go ahead and set it up. Now, when she told me she wanted to do a golf tournament, I was thinking in 2025, because I was like, that'll give us a whole calendar year to prepare. And she said, no, I want to do it in 2024. And we're at a place now to where, countdown begins till Monday. So.
Hey, yeah, we'll tell you how you can sign up for that and be a part of it here in just a couple of days. John Alston with us, a former Gamecock offensive lineman, and again, played a couple of seasons in the National Football League. Let's reminisce about those times just a little bit. We talk so much about the life lessons from Lou Holtz. We hear the stories from Preston, from Langston, from Ryan, from my good friend Eric Kimry, and many, many others. What do you still hear, whether it's good or bad, in your head sometimes, John? What do you hear Lou Holtz still saying to you?
Trust, care, commitment rings through my mind always, and that's so true. This life is about relationships, and that's one thing that Coach always preached, and really that was more of a segue also to what my father always taught us, to always treat people right and make sure they know that you care, and that comes through action. But I hear that ringing through my mind all the time. Trust, care, commitment. And a lot of times it's not said, Lou Holtz wouldn't have said it in that fashion. There would be a little bit of spit coming out, but trust, care, commitment for sure.
You're from the Low Country, like Langston and Preston are. We know that Coach P went to Somerville, Langston at James Island. You went to Stratford. Y'all got a nice, to this day, little Low Country rivalry that you talk about from time to time?
Oh, absolutely, man. So, you kind of said the names in the wrong order. You probably should have said, hey, I'm from Stratford, and then Preston's from Somerville, then Langston's from James Island, because that's the hierarchy. Stratford's number one, Somerville's number two, and then James Island was like a scrimmage to us,
I love it. I thought about that at first. I really did, actually, but I now that you did, it's better for you to set it up that way. So
well, I can tell you were thinking it. I had to say what you were thinking.
Right. Hey, facts are facts, right? That's what Elijah always says, facts. So that's what we'll call those. Before we get you out of here, let's tell everybody how they can sign up and participate to help the Beyond Now Foundation playing some golf next week.
Absolutely. If anyone who is still interested, we have a few spots left. You can go to our Instagram page and click on our links to where you can go and register. You can volunteer. You can donate. So go to our Instagram at beyondnow.te. beyondnow.te, and click on the link, and you can register and just support us. But not even at this one event. Like I said, this is a lifelong mission for us. So again, we're looking for donations. We're looking for folks to play in the golf tournament, but we're also looking for partnerships and folks that want to help us serve the kids as we go along.
Well, best of luck, man. Again, beyondnow.te on Instagram. and see what you can do. Listen, let's keep in touch. I know you talk to those guys on a regular basis. So do we. We'll blend more of that in with you, and we'll one day settle that low country score for you. All right.
Oh, absolutely. Well, listen, the whole deal is this. It's been over 25 years since I've been in high school. All right, and you're only as good as your last game. So when you see Langston and Preston, let them know that you're only as good as I won the state championship my last game playing in high school. So
all right,
I think that settles the score.
I'd say you're right, man. I'd say you are right. He's John Alston. Again, go to Instagram, beyondnow.te. Learn more about the event and what John and his wife are doing to help the kids all across the state of South Carolina. Appreciate you, man. Good luck with it. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right, take care, brother. Thank you for having me.
You bet. That is former Gamecock and NFLer John Alston. Good stuff. Once again, beyondnow.te when you log on to Instagram. Updates from what's going on here at Harbortown Golf Links as the postgame show continues. Welcome back into the post-game show on this Thursday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Coming up next hour, headlines of the day. Got a little breaking news out of the Southeastern Conference basketball world to tell you about in the 5 o'clock headlines. So stay tuned for that. And also, we've got 2 pair of tickets to give you. Well, at least 2 of you.
Right.
For Carolina, Arkansas baseball on Saturday. In fact, one of those opportunities, if Elijah says yes, may be coming in mere minutes. So you good with that?
Oh, I'm cool with that.
Okay. All right. I'll take that as a yes.
That is absolutely yes.
All right.
It's to join me. I'll be in it. Well, we'll be in attendance.
And also next hour, again, really excited to be joined here where I am located by Steve Wilmot, the president of the Heritage Classic Foundation, the director of this amazing event. And the work that he and his team have done to secure the Heritage's place, not only on tour, but in all seriousness, amongst the biggest events on the PGA Tour. It's a really big deal, and I'm very excited to talk with Steve about all the work that went into that. Speaking of which, JT Poston remains your leader in the clubhouse at 8 under. Seamus Power is finished. He is alone in second place at -6. Austin Eckroat, Mackenzie Hughes, Sahith Theegala, and Patrick Rogers are all at 5 under. They are all done. Most guys are done now. Well, we're getting close to finishing up here. A big group at 4 that includes Patrick Cantley and Brian Harmon and Colin Morikawa. Morikawa's on 15 right now. Harmon is on 16 at -4. Jason Day, Sun Jae M, Siwoo Kim, all at 3 under par. So there's your Pacific Rim guys that are out there. That's kind of cool. Will Zalatoris is at 3 under. Thomas Detry is at 3 under. Ludwig Oberg, who made a name for himself at the Masters last weekend, is at 3 under. He is playing the 15th hole as we speak. Lucas Glover, the former Clemson star, is at 2 under. He's done for the day. So is Masters champ Scotty Scheffler. Justin Thomas at 2 under. Rory McIlroy is playing 15 right now. He is at 2 under. We might have a chance to hear the crowd yell for Rory. He's a star.
Roar for Rory.
Him. I see what you did there. Let's see. A couple other big names for you. Yeah. A couple other big names that are done for the day are Jordan Spieth, Shane Lowry, and Ricky Fowler. They are all at 1 under par. Justin Rose is about to approach this way. He is playing 17. He is at 1 under par. So there's a few of the big names. And Matt Fitzpatrick, who won this event last year, is 1 under par. He is on the 16th hole as we speak. So a lot of good stuff here. And again, I know a lot of you that are listening across the Midlands or maybe over in the PD will be heading down here for the weekend action. Crowds are always big on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. From what I understand, the weather looks good. Maybe, look, we're near the ocean, so there's always that chance in the afternoon. But I got to tell you right now, Elijah, as you like to say, the sun is winning.
Undefeated. It's never lost.
Yeah.
Actually.
Very few clouds in the sky right now as I look out behind me towards Calabogie Sound. So a really nice weekend of golf should be in store for all of us. So I'm looking forward to that. And again, looking forward to talking to Steve. And we'll have some more of Elijah's deep dive into the Arkansas Razorbacks coming up in just a little bit. Braves have swept the Houston Astros in Houston. And the Braves are kind of limping right now, man. This is, I think it says something about Houston, but maybe my Braves are going to be okay, even with the loss of Spencer Strider for the year and Ozzie Albies on the IL.
Yeah, I mean that's that series is quite the indication or microcosm of where both these franchises are right now. The Astros are in a little bit of limbo here, I guess. Now in the first non-Dusty Baker season, they have an atrocious start to the season. Invested a lot of money. Josh Hader has been really bad. There's been a lot of very disappointing performances from the Astros. And of course, the Braves still winning despite, being glued together, having their pitching staff completely glued together right now. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign for you, Jay. That is an A+ sign that they're still able to get it together, able to go on the road and sweep a series with, some serious injury issues.
There's a downside to this, though. You know who else keeps winning a lot right now?
Who?
Phillies.
The Phillies. Yes, yeah. Phillies. They're pretty good.
It's kind of hacking me off, to be honest with you.
At least it's not the Mets.
No. Well, let's see. The Mets. Actually, the Mets are doing all right too, man. The Mets are 8-2 in their last 10. Braves and Phillies are 7-3. Each of these teams is on at least. The Braves and Mets are on a 4-game win streak, and the Phillies on a 3-game win streak. So
that's the Mets. Give it time.
Yes, I will.
One of those, will take care of itself.
That's the goal, sir. That is the goal. Headlines of the day coming up. More on Carolina, Arkansas, which starts tomorrow night at Founders Park. And Steve Wilmot, who runs the Heritage, is all coming up for you in the final hour of the postgame show. It's that time of year where it's starting to get warm in Columbia, South Carolina, and all across the Midlands. Beat the seasons with AAA Heating and Air. And if it's time for something brand new, more efficient to make you more comfortable, Roy and Dana Finley don't want you to worry about the cost of that new system. And here's why. They're going to give you 12 months, no payments, no interest. You heard that right. You're going to get guaranteed financing. You heard that right. And you get the 15-year parts and labor guarantee, which means that they are standing behind the equipment that they install, and you know that you and your family are going to stay nice and comfortable for many, many years to come. Get an instant quote from AAA Heating and Air when you log on to callaatoday.com, call AAAtoday.com, or you can do it the more old-fashioned way if you want. Just call them up for yourself, 803-677-1500. Do what my family and I have done for many years. Stay nice and comfortable all the time. Tell them we sent you to AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that are causing a little bit of issue on the roadways this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start with a few here in Richland County. One on Dutch Square Boulevard at Bakersfield. Another one at Lee Road near Trowbridge Road. And then two more. One at Summit Parkway at Summit Center Drive, and one on US 176 near Broad River Road and I-20. So a few accidents, less than there were about an hour ago. So that's a good sign. In Lexington County, we have a couple, one on Pisgah Church Road at Rawl Road. Got three more, one on I-20 eastbound at Longs Pond Road near exit 51. Another at Highway 1 at Augusta Road at US 378. And lastly, an accident that's been causing some issue for about the last 35 minutes or so is one at Hope Ferry Road near Reedy Parkway.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. Also, the final hour of the postgame show. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you today. Yours truly broadcasting live from Harbortown Golf Links as the RBC Heritage is well underway on this Thursday. Elijah back in the Herndon Chevy studios. Let's start with what's going on down here as the leaderboard is beginning to shape up after day one. And as has been the case for the last couple of hours, JT Poston has your early lead here on day one at 8 under par. Seamus Power -6. A big group at -5 that includes Americans Austin Eckroat and Sahith Theegala. Some of the big names that are still out there include Rory McIlroy, who is about to wind things down. He is approaching 18 here in just a few. Justin Thomas has finished up at -2. So has Masters champ Scotty Scheffler, former Clemson golfer and former U.S. Open champ Lucas Glover, also at -2. We'll keep you updated on what's going on here. And again, reminder that coming up later on in this hour, Steve Wilmot is going to join us. He is the longtime president of the Heritage Classic Foundation and the director of this tournament, and has done a magnificent job in securing the Heritage's place amongst the biggest events on the PGA Tour. Looking forward to talking with him. By the way, I promised that in the next few minutes we were going to give away tickets to Carolina, Arkansas. So I'm going to depart a little bit from the headlines of the day.
This is a
go ahead. Well, it is. Okay. Yeah. Breaking news. We're departing from the norm.
We're giving away tickets.
That's right. So right now I want to do that so that I can hold good on my promise, since I've got so many things going on here at once and I don't want to forget. So just full disclosure, I could be forgetful. Caller 5 during the headlines here. You can listen to the headlines and call in and try to win tickets. Caller 5, 803-404-6100. You will get a pair of tickets to Carolina, Arkansas this Saturday at Founders Park. That's a 3:00 first pitch. Gamecocks and the Hogs. Game 2 Saturday. Caller 5 right now. Good luck as I continue with the headlines of the day now. The state of Virginia today has passed a law that probably goes farther than any law so far across the country in helping schools with NIL, as the NCAA continues to debate exactly what this is going to look like. The state of Virginia today has a law scheduled to take effect July 1, which will make it illegal in Virginia for the NCAA to punish a school for compensating athletes over NIL. Current rules, of course, prohibit schools from signing NIL deals with their own players. According to Dan Murphy of ESPN, he says the law could either give Virginia schools a significant recruiting advantage or provide a catalyst for similar changes elsewhere. If I may editorialize here during a news bit, I hope it's the latter. I hope other schools and other states will take similar measures. We've got a law in South Carolina that is going to allow schools to put NIL under their umbrella very soon. Here in, at least for the University of South Carolina's purposes, we've seen the merger of two collectives into one, which I personally believe was an excellent idea. Now is there the next step towards getting these organizations? They can still be run by those that are running them, but under the direct auspices of the schools. I think that needs to happen. The law in Virginia explicitly states that athletes should not be considered employees of their school. The schools in Virginia are still not allowed to pay athletes for their performance in a sport, but beginning this summer, they could be able to use the university or athletic department funds to pay athletes for appearing in marketing campaigns. Carla Williams of UVA, their athletics director, says this was maybe a distinction without a difference, but there is a distinction there. So we'll see what other states do to, whether it's a copycat kind of situation or something more. We'll find out. Also today, in the business of college sports, as we continue our integrated media headlines, the NCAA has passed a new transfer rule that will allow all undergraduate athletes to transfer and play immediately if they meet specific requirements towards graduation and academic performance. The Division I Council today approved what they are calling emergency legislation. It's not completely final. until the NCAA's executive board meets on Monday. But according to Heather Dinich of ESPN, that is expected to be a rubber stamp type of moment. The rule would provide immediate eligibility to any athletes that have transferred this academic year, including football players who entered the transfer portal this week, excuse me, and during this window, as long as they are academically eligible and meeting progress towards degree requirements at their new school. Elijah, I hope this happens. If for no other reason than while I want to see these kids have the freedom that they have and that they've won in court, I do feel like schools and members of the NCAA need parameters. You've got to have something. It can't truly be the Wild West. And if this is going to remain collegiate athletics, I don't disagree with the notion that you've got to tie academics to what they're doing.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like it is in a lot of places, right? Like you look at a school like Duke, right? Duke basketball, in theory, should be able to land whatever, grad transfer, whatever, transfer portal player they want. But it's harder for them to do that because they do have such higher, more rigorous, I guess, academic standards. I guess the most prized recruit transfer portal player they've gotten on the hardwood is Ryan Young, a backup center they got from Northwestern. So yeah, his grades were good. He's got a good resume to get himself in academically. So that's a really tough thing for them. So I think they're already playing by a lot of those rules. A lot of schools are. I would say a good majority of them are. But that does give it the collegiate aspect, right? I mean, there's a college aspect you still need to have. And that was also like, it was one of Lou Holtz when he was at Notre Dame. One of his biggest things was, maybe trying to ease up on the academic standard to get some of these players in, but now it can be used as a deterrent,
right.
For certain transfers. I mean, I'm all for adding deterrents, legal deterrents, right? Like if we want to slow it down, like some legal deterrents would be have harsher grade limits, or I guess grade standards to be able to just transfer from one school to the next. That is a legal, deterrent. Being able to say you can't play for a year, we've already determined is not. And that's already lost, in court and would lose again if they were to try to re-challenge that. So there's certain ways, I guess, you can make small deterrents. And if it organizes the sport for the whole, then ultimately it is going to be beneficial. It's just finding those things and enforcing them will be the hard part too.
Well, speaking of transfers, to women's basketball we go, where Haley Van Lith today has announced that she will transfer to Texas Christian for her final season of eligibility. The former Louisville and LSU star will join the Horned Frogs. Last year for the Tigers, 11.6 points, 3.6 assists. She had averaged nearly 20 points a game while she was at Louisville, and of course helped the Tigers to the Elite Eight this season and the Cardinals to the Final Four back in 2022. So she will be playing in the Big 12 to conclude her collegiate eligibility. And we weren't sure what Reed Shepherd was going to do, but the Kentucky star freshman and the freshman of the year nationally is going to enter the NBA draft. Elijah, I'll toss this one to you. It's somewhat ironic from my point of view that, Reed Shepherd is a Kentucky kid who, again, has a legacy from his father who knows Mark Pope. Mark Pope is now there as a Kentucky guy. And I one of the things I had said was that maybe, some of the things that were going on at Kentucky had led that basketball program to lose its way in terms of what those fans want and what it means inside the Commonwealth of Kentucky in terms of winning basketball. And this guy sort of embodied a lot of it. Not surprised necessarily that he's not going to play for Mark Pope, but I thought that might have been a nice mix.
Here's the thing too, if Reed Shepherd was born a year earlier, maybe he doesn't. And that's the thing, because this draft class is very weak. It has been, a lot of NBA scouts anonymously and, on paper, publicly have said this is close to what the 2000 draft class is, which is notoriously one of the worst NBA draft classes in terms of it. I think only producing one All-Star. I think that might have been Kenyon Martin. And then Jamal Crawford's one of the only other best players from that. They don't have a ton of All-Star appearances, no All NBAs at all from that draft class. This is drawing some parallels, which is good for Reed Shepherd because Last year, he might have been a top 15 pick. Still lottery, still good payday, right? This year, there's a legit chance he's top 5. And that's going to make a big difference. I think that's hard to turn down. And I don't think it's going to be that way next year because Cooper Flagg, for all intents and purposes, is considered to be the guy who's only the best player in the draft, or at least the best rising freshman who's a phenom, right? Like he's maybe not going to be Zion Williamson level of fan obsession, but it's going to be close. He's coming to play for Duke next year, and he'll headline the next year's NBA draft class. It's going to be a little more star-studded, a little more loaded. From just a draft standpoint, this is Reed Shepherd's time to cash in on being a top 5 pick. So I get it. And I almost, I'd be willing to lean towards if he was just a year older, came in last year, and it was John Calipari's last year, fired, Mark Pope coming in, going into the 23-24 season, decent chance he stays. But yeah, I think this has as much to do with his prospects as actually getting drafted as a top 5, top 6, 7 player than it does, just bolting for the draft, which I can imagine makes this decision pretty tough. And he took it a long way. A lot of guys declared immediately, especially guys that are that good. Rob Dillingham, I think, probably might have declared verbally after the Oakland loss. As soon as the buzzer sounded, he might have declared right there, all jokes aside. But like, Reed Shepherd had to really think about this, and I do truly believe that it's a timing thing more so than anything with him.
Yeah, it makes sense, and the kid's good, man. But like I say, I just there's something about him that I would say embodies more of what it was that Kentucky basketball needed. And they're out there again. That state, it's weird. That state doesn't produce tons of great talent, considering how proud that program is about its basketball. And so here was one of their own. But like you say, timing's everything in life, and so this does make a lot of sense. So there you go. Reed Shepherd is on his way to the NBA, and doesn't look like this is it. There's no portal here or anything else. He's gone. So he's out. That's our integrated media headlines of the day, brought to you, as you well know, by Integrated Media for all your home theater needs and so much more. Whether it's a big job like a brand new installation of your entire home's entertainment system, or maybe something great outdoors, especially to enjoy our beautiful weather, or just moving stuff around, even installing your new video doorbell so you know it's done right the first time. 803-948-8327. My very good friends at Integrated Media want you to know there's no job too big, no job too small, and much more affordable than you may believe when it comes to expert installation and service. That's what Integrated Media is truly all about. 803-948-8327. Elijah's going to help you break down the Arkansas pitching staff ahead of a huge opportunity for Gamecock baseball this weekend. You are listening to the Postgame Show.
You could swing cash.
Welcome back into the post-game show on this Thursday afternoon. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you, broadcasting from two locations. Those of you watching on YouTube can tell that. Yours truly at Harbortown Golf Links as day one of the Heritage is winding down. Elijah back in the master control suite of the Herndon Chevy Studios. Time to talk a little Carolina baseball as the Gamecocks get ready for Arkansas coming to town tomorrow night. Last night on Carolina Calls, Coach Mark Kingston had this to say in terms of a scouting report of the number 2 Razorbacks.
Well, they're the best pitching staff in the country. Statistically, professional prospect-wise, it's the best pitching staff in the country. So we're going to have to really, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have to maybe be creative. We're going to maybe have to play more contact hitters as opposed to more power hitters. We're going to have to see if we can get a bunt down and maybe they'll throw one away. We might have to start some runners and think about hitting runs and running hits. Just going to have to get a little creative because their pitching staff just is very stingy. They have 443 strikeouts and 316 innings. Opponents hit less than 200. It's a real pitching staff. It's the best in the country right now. So coming into Founders Park, we're going to have to really dig deep. We're going to have to get creative and make sure we better have short swings this weekend because if you have long swings against this kind of pitching staff, it can be for a long night.
So there's Mark Kingston on that. And, sometimes coaches will say that kind of stuff about an opponent. But our own Elijah Campbell has done a deep dive into why the things Mark Kingston just said about the Hogs pitching staff are legit. The floor is yours, sir.
It rings true. I was looking at some stats today in terms of SEC leadership, right? And like the best pitching staff in to kind of determine if they are maybe the best pitching staff in the SEC, just to compare it to their peers who obviously A&M's got one of the best staffs in the country. You've got several loaded, future MLB type talent staffs in the Southeastern Conference, but out of all of those, Arkansas is the best ERA by a large margin. You're going to notice here there's a trend of them being number 1 in the conference in certain stats by wide margins, and one is total team ERA, which is sitting at 279 right now, Jay Phillips. The second best is Texas A&M at 321. That is a large gap. They are the best at keeping teams away from the plate by a significant margin, as opposed to other really good pitching staffs. They have the most saves. So it's not just, the starters, because they have a 3-man rotation on the weekend between Hagen Smith, Mason Molina, and Brady Tygart that are lights out, especially Hagen Smith, who is going to be a top 5 pick in the Major League Baseball draft one day, and will be one of the first pitchers taken if Chase Burns isn't for Wake Forest. He's got some electric stuff. And earlier this year against, I believe, Oregon State, had a 17 strikeout game. 17 strikeouts.
It's kind of frightening.
Yeah, it's terrifying. And I went back and watched every single one of those strikeouts.
It's frightening. Yeah.
And the large majority of them were swinging strikeouts. He is such a beast to hit. And as a left-hander, that ball does a lot of funky stuff coming into the plate too. It is a marvel. He's been starting Fridays for the entire season. I can almost bank on him being the Friday night starter tomorrow night.
Certainly.
And then, of course, over the last 3 weeks too, it's been Smith, Molina, Tygart. Molina, another lefty. They've played for the last 3 Saturdays, but before that, they flipped Tygart as the Saturday starter, Molina as the Sunday. We'll see what they go here. I think they'll probably stick with Smith, Molina, Tygart. But in terms of we already talked about the starting rotation, but the bullpen is pretty solid too. They lead the SEC in saves with 18. They've got 4 players that have collected at least 3 saves this year. 1 with 6, 1 with 4, 2 with 3. All of them right-handers except 1, and that's a pretty solid, I guess, group of players. They feel comfortable in any situation in the 8th or 9th inning to come in and seal the deal. It's not just the starters that are pitching lights out. The bullpen has been fantastic this year as well. And yes, like I said, those 18 saves, most in the SEC. Teams are hitting. You want to know what the batting average of the teams that are, teams are hitting against them this year? Say above or below the Mendoza line.
Well, I was going to say, the way you're asking it, I've got a number in my head of like 190.
You're really close. It's 198. It is a putrid 198. That is what teams are hitting against Arkansas this year. Obviously, the best mark in the SEC when it comes to opponent ERA or a batting average.
Yeah.
The second closest would be Texas A&M at 219, which still it lights out for A&M, really good, but that's still a wide gap.
Well, and like you said about the Arkansas ERA relative to A&M, that's a half a run a game. I mean, over the course of the season, how many more runs is that? It goes to show you. If you would, Elijah, to kind of further the point, again, Mark Kingston on last night, he had that cut on Hayden Smith and exactly what it is, Hagen Smith, excuse me, and exactly what it is that he does so well. Here's what Mark Kingston had to say about Hagen.
Well, we haven't gotten into that yet. We, as coaching staff, we started looking at them today. Earlier this week, the total focus was on the Citadel. You've got to put one game at a time, as the cliche goes. We put our focus this first half of the week into winning that game at the Citadel. So we started digging into Arkansas today, and then we will start tomorrow addressing that with our players. And then obviously on game day, we do a full scouting report for our players. But when you look at Hagen Smith, he will be the first college pitcher taken in the major league draft this year. There's no question about that. He's a big, strong, physical lefty. 89 strikeouts in 47 innings, and he's only given up 22 hits. So to have 4 times as many strikeouts as hits, it's almost unheard of at any level. And so we're going to have our hands full that night. So we're going to have to try to get creative, try to do some things to maybe, create runs in maybe ways that we haven't normally, just to try to see if we can find something to get him off his game. And so we'll see what we can come up with, and we'll go from there.
And for a team, Elijah, that already has a propensity for striking out, I say it's frightening that he's got a game with 17 strikeouts already. Yeah. You heard what Mark said there in terms of how many he has. There's not any teams that are very successful against him. And you can't give too much away when you say we've got to get creative. Mark can't sit here and tell us what it is that he's going to do. You got to have some kind of secret strategy, if you will. But sometimes, like we say, this game is pretty simple: throw the ball, hit the ball, catch the ball. This kid doesn't make it that simple. So it's like I say, for a team that already strikes out a lot, even if they score a lot of runs, we know Carolina can score a lot of runs. This is a daunting task.
Yeah, and especially considering, South Carolina not necessarily the best at hitting for average. Mark alluded in one of the previous clips about wanting to set his lineups to be for, maybe throwing in more contact hitters. Sounds great in theory, but, you're still not hitting for great average this season, right? Your 13th South Carolina is in the SEC in batting average. You know what opponent batting averages are against Hagen Smith specifically? They're 138.
And he doesn't walk a lot of guys. So I don't know what the OBP against him is, but it's not going to be anything. It's not like he's out there walking 5 guys a night or something either. So
an insane ratio of strikeouts to walks.
You're just not getting on base. That's just it. You're just not even getting on base against this kid. Nobody is. And Mark's right. He might not just be the first pitcher take. He might be the first player. You never know.
Possibly, yeah.
But big, strong, left-handed pitchers, newsflash, kids, they're at a premium in professional baseball. So we'll see how it goes. And more on this one for you certainly tomorrow ahead of the game. We'll have all 3 on 107.5 The Game this weekend. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead right now. Speaking of that, Game 2 tickets. We have one more pair to give away.
Indeed.
803-404-6100. This time we'll do caller 6.
Ooh, I like it. Mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, just why not? We usually do
Spicy.
5. This time we'll do 6. Caller 6, 803-404-6100. You and a friend will be going to the game, courtesy of Josh Ellman and all of us at 107.5 The Game. So good luck. That's Saturday tickets, by the way. Saturday afternoon, Carolina, Arkansas, Game 2. Expected to be joined here soon by Steve Wilmot. We'll also have a quick drive around the SEC. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to report to you that are causing some delays on the roadways this Thursday afternoon. Not many, only 3 to report here in the Midlands. So that's the good news. 2 in Lexington, 1 in Richland County. So we'll start in Lexington County. An accident on I-26 eastbound at the Piney Grove Road exit 104, is causing some traffic backup, as well as one on St. Andrews Road at Ashland Road. Our only accident to report in Richland County is one that has recently been reported over at Lee Road at Hardscrabble Road.
It is typically drive around the SEC time on a Thursday afternoon, and there's a lot of SEC golfers here. And Steve Wilmot and I were just talking about 2 SEC head coaches playing the Pro-Am, and Shane Beamer and Lamont Paris yesterday. So we'll make this a drive around Harbortown Golf Links today. But I am honored to be joined by Steve Wilmot, the longtime president of the Heritage Classic Foundation. He is the director of this tournament. Thank you for coming by. I know you don't have a whole lot going on,
no,
so I appreciate you taking the time out to come hang with us.
Well, I appreciate you thinking of us, and we've got such a great team that I'm able to do some of these things while everybody's working hard, but it's truly a team effort, just like football,
right,
as in some other sports. And so we're excited about a great week.
I could probably talk to you for an hour, and I've got about 15 minutes, so I'll make this as brief as I can. But as a South Carolinian, and somebody's just done something nice on 18. This tournament means so much to so many, but it wasn't all that long ago where this was in real jeopardy. You and your team have not only worked hard to salvage this event, but now to transform this event into one of the biggest on the tour, and following obviously one of the biggest events on the planet. Again, you could write a book, Steve, but what's that been like for you?
Well, thank you for that. It was more of a difficult ride than people even thought. I mean, we were in jeopardy in 2011 at the last putt of not having a tournament in 12. And there's a lot of hard work that went into it, but that's when we really did a little soul searching. Sometimes it takes a negative thing for positive to happen. And back then, during the broadcast, let alone the players, everything was positive. It wasn't about the tournament going away. It was about we can't go away. We need to play here. We need to be a part. So the media was a big part of pushing it, and the players. And, and also the fact over the years we've embraced ourselves being behind the week after the premier event, all golf, all the sports, right, the Masters. Right. So in us working hard on a couple partners, and RBC came into play. The Boeing was a huge part too as our presenting sponsor. But the interesting thing going back to 11 is, that's when we were struggling. We did 11 on our own, right, Heritage Classic Foundation, but we had support. We had a loan from the county. We had a grant from the town. And all of a sudden, everybody got engaged, as well as Columbia did, in a huge way, in the fact of how can we help? What can we do? And it's kind of snowballed from there, but certainly a lot of hard work by many, many people.
Well, and as we said, it's one thing to simply keep the tournament going, which you have done, but now in a decade and a half, and with this year, this is a signature event. And for those that don't know, that's a bigger purse. It's a smaller field. There are no cuts. This is the elite golfers on tour. So from where you were, and then to have that springboard into this, what's that been like? How different and similar are those kind of situations?
Well, again, we were awarded a designated status last year, and it was kind of a last minute thing. So we were, in years past, we were an invitational limited field, 132 players, but last year we ballooned to 150, which when you say, well, that's only 18 more players. Well, that's 18 more caddies. That's 18 more families. That's 18 more courtesy cars. That's it's snowball effect. So that creates some problems, issues. But we did in years past had like on Thursday and Fridays, we're up sun up to sundown and tee times front and back threesomes. And this year we're off the first tee. Today was 8:15, and we'll be finishing up here about 6 o'clock tonight. But the efforts that were put forth, I mean, even from the state side of seeing how important through COVID, we kind of kept the state open, kept golf open, golf boom. The state realized how important golf was, but how important the tournament was, and more and more people got engaged and realizing the importance, which we've certainly benefited from. But certainly the South Carolina Department of Ag is a big partner. South Carolina the PRT is a big partner. So there's many people in I don't know who's in Columbia right now because they're all
they're all here.
They're all here. So, but that's a good thing. I mean, this is our signature event of the state when it comes to golf. We have a premier. We have a second event now in South Carolina, which is important too, in Myrtle Beach. So we can't claim we're the only PGA Tour event in South Carolina, but we can't claim we're the only signature tour event in South Carolina. But it's so important to South Carolina. I love it. We're not competing with the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA. We have the PGA Tour event, a signature one of the premier events. And look at our field, the strongest field we've ever had.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And it's the guys want to be here. They want to support us.
And that's where I want to take you next. I'm talking to Steve Wilmot, the tournament director and, again, president of the Heritage Foundation. We can all kind of get an idea and doing this show across much of the state now as South Carolinians. But how eye-opening was it for you as someone who's been down here so long, doing this so long, to see how much this tournament meant to those who aren't from South Carolina?
Well, it's opened up. It's opened up the fact that there is a lot of people that are here because of the golf tournament too, and but the support, the volunteers that are, this community is so volunteer giving too, that if we had to give $1 an hour to all these volunteers, we give nothing to charity. But the support that comes from outside of this area, because this is a destination tournament. I mean, our economic impact is well over $100 million. Wow. I mean, it's but it's one of those things that, because people are flying here, they're coming here, they're renting cars, they're staying in hotels, renting villas, they're playing golf, they're going to restaurants and doing all those things too, where some other places you might wake up in the morning, go to a golf tournament, go back to your house. So the impact is incredible here, but it exposes the guests of the likes of RBC and Boeing and Coca-Cola, and I can go on and on, who they're bringing in there is their key customers, and which is exciting.
When do you get to exhale?
Actually, we're already working on next year's event. I mean, that's the thing. Sure. So there's no doubt the last 6 weeks to 2 months is really, there's no doubt 7-day work weeks. I mean, no doubt. And if I had to do this, what I've been doing the last 3 weeks, I would have quit a long time ago. But it's going to take a couple weeks. People think I'm going to take, we as a team, and I'm going to take Monday next week off. All this stuff's got to go. Right. And it's funny when all of a sudden it's like, when are you moving the porta johnies? Where are my cars? When am I getting paid? So next week is the toughest week. The next 10 days will be the toughest. I'd rather have the tournament for 2 weeks than what we're going to go through. But then we'll get into debrief meetings and recaps. And, just because we did something away this year doesn't mean we're going to do it next year, and, reevaluate things.
How often, seriously, I'm sure you play a lot of golf, but do you play Harbor Town a lot? I mean, do you want to do, and I ask not so much from a recreational standpoint. How's the course playing? How's the course look? How do you have a discerning eye when you are on this golf course?
Well, it's one of those things. Do I enjoy playing golf? Yes. I tell people I live on Hilton Island. My golf stinks. My tennis is terrible. Man, I'm playing good basketball, so there's a problem there. I love it, and I do. But this week, if you ask me who's on the leaderboard, I can't tell you. I and our team is about outside the ropes. Right. We're about everything you see here. But I can tell you from the player's perspective, the rules official's perspective, PGA Tour agronomists and all, the condition of this golf course is the best it's ever been. But that's the commitment of the Sea Pines Resort. And there's a gentleman by John Wright, who's the golf course superintendent, that people think you throw a little grass seed out there and water and everything's going to be great. He's a magician. He's truly the best in the business. And it's going to be incredible. This weather keeps up. It's going to be a little firm out there, but it's going to be great. It's going to be good. So.
Well, as my producer and co-host Elijah Campbell says, the sun is undefeated. So if it's going to be baking down, it's going to do its thing. There's no question about that. I won't ask you who your favorite current golfer is, but the golf fan in you growing up, who opened Steve Wilmot's eyes to this sport?
Well, I wasn't a golfer. I was a football, basketball, baseball guy. I played football in college, coached football as well. And when I got into it, who is I consider a dear, near friend, and I grew up in different ways. How I got into the business, the first year, this is my 38th tournament, was a gentleman by the name of Davis Love's first win on the PGA Tour. Yeah. He's won 5 times since. He's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm still working out of a double-wide trailer down in sight. And we joke about that, but whether that's good or bad. But he is a gentleman that I can talk about 2 guys like that, but Payne Stewart was a great friend too. Yeah. And they're gentlemen that really mean something to me, that we're family friends, and Davis and his complete family are extremely.
And I've seen so many interviews with Davis through the years that his love for this event, and you say 5-time winner, but I think there's something in him that says, I'm going to go win this because of how much I love it, not because of how much I'm going to make.
Well, and here's an interesting thing that we're talking about it. Back in 2011, when we went without a title sponsor, Davis had his own event down at the RSM Classic. He assisted us with looking for some title sponsors, and he had his own event. Yeah. But he didn't want things to happen here. Yeah. And there was he opened some doors. He played with some people for some key things, and he was instrumental in assisting us with some things. Yeah. So that shows you he's got his own event, and here he is helping us.
I can believe it. Last thing for you, real quick. Can I go in the lighthouse? How does that work?
The lighthouse? Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Can I do the show for the lighthouse next year?
Oh, you have to talk to our media relations people and get some tour approvals and things. But we appreciate the support. We appreciate you, Jay. Thanks for having.
Yes, sir. No, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you, and I want to thank Sarah Hazard and the team at South Carolina Manufacturers Association for being able to hook us up here. It's a wonderful event. I'm so happy to be down here. Looking forward to tomorrow and the weekend, and we'll do it again soon.
Well, and thank you. And again, Sarah, as you mentioned too, we're not just about Hilton Head Island. We're about South Carolina, and Sarah's one of our Plaid South Carolina Palmetto State Initiative. Right. She's on that committee with Charlie Roundtree, Doug Smith, others around the state, and they've been very helpful, supportive, engaging getting people involved and all. So it's truly a team effort and a community effort. But in this case, the community is the state of South Carolina.
Well, congrats on what you're putting on here. It's been a pleasure. And again, love to talk to you again down the line.
Anytime.
Thank you, Steve. That's Steve Wilmot, the tournament director, president of the Heritage Foundation. This is the Postgame Show. All right, welcome back into the postgame show on this Thursday. Final few minutes here from day one of the Heritage at the Harbortown Golf Links. And I want to say again, just a huge thank you to Steve Wilmot for stopping by. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I honestly, Elijah, I could talk to him for a long time, but if I dropped, a young golf fan into this event, especially, tomorrow or Saturday, because the crowd here today is nice. It is, but it's Thursday. I get it. It's Thursday. Trust me, tomorrow and then Saturday, I'm not going to say the crowd's going to double, although by Saturday it might. But if I just dropped the average, young golf fan into this and said, would you believe that 15 years ago, this thing almost died? I think they'd think you're like, what are you talking about? It's just remarkable the work that they have done. Like I say, not just to save this thing, and to put on a tournament 1 year on their own when they lost a title sponsor, but to encourage so many to have this grow, to be saved, and the players love it. And then to now, last year a designated event, this year even higher with a signature event. It's just a wonderful testament to the hard work they've done and how much this tournament means. But it really is a big deal, man. And Steve and his team deserve so much credit for making it happen. Because like I said, you wouldn't know. I mean, you come around. I mean, this place is hopping, and it's going to continue that way this weekend. Yeah,
I'll give them the Chumbawamba Award for they get knocked down, they got up again.
Yeah,
and you're never going to keep them down. Good event.
It was scary, man. I mean, I remember it. And I'm fortunate enough to know some of the people that were involved in some of those discussions and what it was like and how, when you've got, let's just put it this way, like this year, you've got a $20 million purse. Well, that doesn't mean you're just spending $20 million on this tournament, right? I mean, and there ain't always a lot of money to go around. You've got to find people that have deep pockets and want to part with that money for something like this. And I just think it really is. And it's such a special event. I remember that first time I came here, I don't know how old I was. I was like 12, maybe. I can't remember exactly. 11, 12, somewhere in that, back in the early 80s.
Young J.
Youngster. And came back a couple times in high school and college. I've been back, several times as an adult. And it's just fantastic. I love being down here. It's different from other golf tournaments that I've been to. Again, I've been to the Masters, and the Masters is certainly a standalone event, but I'm really happy. Like I say, I think for folks around here, it means a lot. And for the state, it means a lot. And like Steve said, one of the few pro events that we've got in South Carolina. So I appreciate Steve Wilmot's time and joining us today. Who are we congratulating for our ticket winners? I think you sent that out.
I did.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Watkins and Danny Hires.
There you go. Way to go, guys. Looking forward to this one. Again, I will be joining you tomorrow for some call-ins. I will not be hosting the show, so I'm going to turn that to Elijah, but I'm looking forward to that. And I'll try to send you some more videos and some things like that I did today.
Oh, yeah. More Jason Day tee shots.
Well, I'm definitely going to try to follow around with some of the guys. Like I didn't get to see Scheffler and Spieth today, and I didn't the Homa Fleetwood pairing. I want to watch those guys. I like both of those guys. And I think they're going to be fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to going and hanging around and seeing a little more golf, and again trying to do my part to enjoy it as a golf spectator. But it's been a whole lot of fun. And again, I want to thank Steve Wilmot. I want to thank Trip Eisenhower of the Golf Channel for hanging out with us and even talking a little football and golf with John Alston. And remind you all again too for John Alston's Beyond Now Foundation Golf Tournament coming up on Monday. Go to Instagram. beyondnow.te is the way to learn more, to sign up, to learn more about the Beyond Now Foundation that he and his wife have started. So make sure you get into that. And I know tomorrow, too, a lot more on Carolina baseball. Big opportunity, Elijah. Huge opportunity for South Carolina.
Huge. Against a team that is number 4 in the RPI. And look, if you're looking for a stat to give you a little bit of hope, Gamecock fans, is that this team is only 4-4 in the Quad 1. These are 3 Quad 1 games coming up here this weekend. As good as they are this season, a team that is, 32-5, they're 27-1 at home. They're 3-3 in true road games.
Huh?
So if there's anything to give you help, I know I regurgitated all the scary pitching stats that this Razorback team has accumulated this year, but there is some numbers that can point to you making it a little scary for them.
Good stuff. Carolina Calls with Shane Beamer coming up next, and y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.